Good morning. I'm glad that you can hear me. Um, Everything's been going good, but it's also been pretty chaotic and revealing, especially in heartbreaking ways. First, in Muggle World, 3D, I have multiple advanced degrees. I have 2 master's degrees. They're in fields that are absolutely legitimate, but are not only oversaturated, but globalized. And as such, from the moment I entered that field, I have always had to deal with steep competition. In the US specifically, I really had to work for myself, and it wasn't easy. I was doing internet marketing since 2008. And from 2008 up until this point in time, throughout a long road, I've learned that only now are things like digital marketing relevant. And even then, most of the digital marketing that's done, in my opinion, is corporate metrics, trash, and a lot of padding fees and circumstances, because it's really not that deep. If you have a solid product, you should be able to release your product with a solid website and some PPC ads, maybe social media, because I'm not big on social media, even if you find little spots of me here and there. With that being said, my career path has been a fucking nightmare. I actually got burnt out from what digital marketing became in 2019. And I sent an email to people saying, hey, in 2020, I'm done. And a lot of people did not take me seriously. People didn't take me up on my offer. They were being nosy. And I stopped doing the internet marketing thing full time in 2020. From that point forward, I focused on my magical path, which has been active since late 2013. So I have almost 11 and a half years of magic, sorcery, and spiritual work under my belt. And to be very clear, this stuff definitely has helped me. I'm not going to guarantee that it helps everybody, but it's helped me, and I'm a very strong advocate of magical work. But it also helped my career. And here's how. I used to work extremely hard for what I wanted out of life. And unfortunately, as hard as I worked, I could get the little things, but I struggled endlessly with the big things. My own house never happened. Buying a car on my own for myself never happened. I have a car though. It was gifted to me. One of my dream cars, it was gifted to me. But that was way before magic. I probably manifested that without knowing what manifestation was. I would have these luxury apartments that I loved. And those apartments were amazing. I loved them. And I also had a point in time where I was able to take time off of work and really focus on myself and my spiritual healing at least twice, thanks to corporate jobs I had. So, how does this relate to business? How does this relate to marketing? I learned that I had a lot of unhealed challenges, issues with codependency, overgiving, people pleasing, piss poor boundaries. And I had a thing where, and I realized this today, I would let people tell me what was wrong with me based upon how much I felt I needed their validation and approval. This specifically goes for my father, because this is where I actually got my breakthrough, and we're going to share it. My best friend of 20 plus years has seen all of my ups and downs in relationships, and trying to be an entrepreneur and starting my own business, and throughout my career. She saw when I worked with celebrities and did interviews for magazines. She saw when I started my own podcast over 10 years ago. It's not good, so I haven't re-released it. I might let it go live on YouTube again, but I don't know. And, you know, she saw my ups and downs and how much I would literally try to research the issues, contemplate the issues, change the issues, change myself, switch up all of these things about me to make myself more favorable to conditions that I was in that really I didn't belong in. And as I delved more and more into magic and the true root of what it's about, magic is about energetic change, and it's also about alchemy, which is turning something into something else, or, you know, turning something into gold, you know, things like that. But, you know, for me, what it's really been is a path towards cleaning off everybody else's beliefs, energy, and thoughts about me and how I do things, and getting to know the Most High, aka God, for what God wants me to see and not what everybody else sees. Because unfortunately, I come from a family that's trapped by Christianity. And I'm going to say it to you this way. If you have a lot of problems and you pretend to be perfect on the outside, but you wait until the pulpit to start talking about your problems and throw other people, such as myself, under the bus to get your point across without my permission, that's an invasion of spiritual privacy. That's a breach of my trust as a person and as a family member. And it also draws a negative perception of me when other people come around me. And for the past 10 to 15 years, I realized how my father's energy toward me, though he shows me love and he loves me, I see how he truly thinks about things and how he's kept certain things to himself. And it wasn't until I had a very raw spiritual moment of wounding and realization about where I wanted to go in life. And I shared some things that he wanted to bring up my ex-husband. And apparently, you know, in his mind, if I was already married, then why do I want marriage again? Because, again, Christian prison says that whoever you marry, that's just it for life. Now, you and I both know marriage is a very sacred union, but it's also a business partnership. I'll be honest, my parents never taught me what a business partnership like marriage should look like. And the example they gave me made me run for the hills, because I saw a lot of things that seemed functional, but honestly messed me up in the process. And it didn't just mess me up in the way I chose people to be involved with. It messed me up in what I was willing to do to maintain a relationship. I grew up with the belief that you have to do everything possible, especially as a woman, to make your relationship work no matter what. That the love and the nurturing and the sacrifice was on the woman's part, especially emotionally, spiritually, physically. I learned that. And when I got married to the person that I was married to, whom I love this person very much, like we're cool as hell, but respectfully, they were not the fucking person for me. I gained like 70 pounds with this person. I did not want to be alive around this person. I suffered from a lot of very low vibrations and really weird situations related to this person and their behavior, including spiritual disturbances. This person had a fixation on something that seems harmless, but is honestly infiltrating lives every day. And that's porn. And that's a different story for another day, because I watch porn, and I watch porn more than a lot of people, but porn should not affect your ability to make love to your wife. Porn should not affect your ability to be available for your wife. And since that relationship, I actually have met men who have boundaries on porn to where they don't necessarily impact our connection. So we're just going to leave it at that. But with this connection specifically, it was very bad. And even though the material seemed normal, I would have extreme nightmares whenever something new was downloaded. I have no idea what was in that apartment that we were staying in. I have no idea. What the issue was. If I knew then what I knew now, I maybe we'd still be married because I was deeply in love, or we probably would have never gotten married at all. I don't know. It really depends. But I do feel like the impact and the healing would have been a lot faster. Because it was only yesterday that I realized that because I had this validation and desire to get married, and I would show it and share it with everybody around me, low key, my whole family's been looking at me with a side eye because they think that the person I married before should have been it. When I approached my family about certain challenges, it was met with, and it is what it is. Y'all are married, figure it out. But before we got married, it was y'all shouldn't be living together during wedlock, figure it out. Life circumstances pushed me to move with this person. So it just basically, when I say, trapped in Christianity, when you're so trapped in what a manufactured and manipulated document says, and I say that because as much as my parents try to shove the Bible down my throat, I see a lot of inconsistencies in application and execution, even in my own family. And when I was strongly attempting Christianity and I chose to be an Adventist, I saw even more contrast with how things should so-called be and how things were. And that's not to say that being an Adventist is top tier, because it's not. But I say that to say my family taught me a lot of painful and traumatic dynamics that I carried not only into relationships where I began over-pleasing and bending over backward and sacrificing myself for the sake of keeping things together or, being successful because I never wanted to be divorced. It also moved into how I dealt with being an internet marketer in the early stages of my career. I could work nonstop for hours from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. every single day. When I felt alienated from my family because I was very alienated and treated like crap for the emotions I had for the divorce I wanted, without any compassion, that it takes a lot to want to divorce somebody that you love. I would travel and I would do electronic audits for a large electronics store, get an affordable hotel I could find, and spend hours writing books, creating content, working on my website, working on so many different projects, doing my best to build a brand. And really pushing this idea that I could work from around the country or around the world, because at the time books like the Millionaire Fast Lane or the Fast Lane Millionaire, that's by MJ DeMarco, and Laptop Millionaire and the 4-Hour Work Week were very fresh and very easy to implement. I was passionate, but I did not have boundaries. I was not clear in where I stopped and the other person began. So I honestly spent over 10 years doing the most for a lot of people, getting paid minimally, arguing over my worth, and just feeling even more less than, like I wasn't worth certain levels of respect and affection and love in my relationships. And I just wasn't expected to receive certain levels of respect, compensation, and accomplishment and acknowledgement in my career. And I also noticed how, I was pushed into all of these programs as a child to make me showcase my smartness. My parents would push to have me at the top of the classes, and I'd be the only girl of color there. And that was very alienating and traumatizing, because people didn't, where I grew up, I was in a school where I might as well have been segregated. Like, what was a black person doing at the top of the class? They looked to say I have a speech impediment. It was crazy. And I went to pretty solid schools for high school and my master's program. I'm not going to talk about my bachelor's because I ended up having to file a borrower's defense, and those loans got discharged because that school scammed me into signing up. I'm saying all of this to say, despite the hard work I've been forced to put into myself, despite the achievements that I naturally have, despite the work that I've put in, I reached a point of burnout where I just got tired of not feeling like I was good enough. I got tired of feeling like I need to keep proving that I'm worthy of love. I was tired of proving that I'm loyal, tired of proving that I'll be there for people, and tired of setting an example for others, hoping that they would realize my worth. And so when I cut back my business and I left the jobs alone and I focused on the sorcery and magic, the personal transformation piece made me realize a lot of this stuff, it's sourced from your family. It's sourced from your home environment. And if you don't get love, respect, and boundaries and certain types of protections in your family, you're going to go out in the world and struggle, and your family's not going to understand a fucking thing they did to contribute to the situation, nor are they going to be compassionate toward the struggle that you have, because no matter what, they don't understand the dynamic in which you were placed, especially if you're a highly sensitive person or a highly empathetic person or a highly psychic person. So essentially, you're kind of on your own, which is what I am. So at this great stage of the game, I admit that the other day I broke down in tears, because I felt like if I have 2 master's degrees and I'm busting my tail and I've done so many things and so many people say I'm great, why can't I, attract a higher paying muggle job? Why can't I attract a decent client for, something that I want to do? Where is the outlet? I just finished working one dead-end job. And dead end as in it claims to have potential, but when you ask about moving into that potential, they can't afford to move you, so they tell you that you're still not good enough. That was heartbreaking and hard to deal with. And I attracted a second position and was triggered because somebody from my past like 20 years ago was there. And while this person doesn't remember me, I remember somebody that they know. And just things that I thought I had left behind came up. And the ultimate feeling, essentially, was that I worked so hard to not be at a basic job that's barely above minimum wage. And here I am. My degrees mean nothing. The hard work means nothing. Not allowing myself to go out and have fun and make friends means nothing. Just like all the relationships I tried to put work into, it clearly means nothing. And I'm also ready, to settle down because I'm ready to have a child. And I personally would prefer to have my child in wedlock, in marriage. And apparently, again, like I said, my family thinks that, oh, that was one and done. Never mind that it's been 10, 15 years since you've dealt with this person. Never mind the growth you've gone through. Never mind the extreme weight loss and beauty transformation you've gone through. Never mind the therapy you've gone through. Never mind the self-care, the journaling, the shadow work, the candles, the healing you've gone through. You should have stayed right there in that shit pit. I think that my ex and I are way better without each other, even though we keep in touch. He's all the way in another part of the country, and I'm here. I don't have any real desire to rekindle something that ended amicably because it ended for a reason, and I put a lot of my effort into it. But I also feel the same way about my career. Of course, I'm going to still work on it. This is a little bit of a vent. But the underlying factor when I went to my family and had my wake-up call is that they are not conscious, and they're not willing to be conscious of how your spiritual energy flows through everything. And if your spirit is wounded, that wounded part is going to be eaten up by predators wherever you go. And my ex, I'm not going to call him a predator, but you can read between the lines in terms of, the ups and downs of trying to find genuine people to have in your life and the things that go with it. Predators in business, as a woman especially, befriending women that would happily pay other people for their products and services, but would befriend me so that they didn't have to pay me, so that they could pick my brain and we can girl talk and then they can slip in what they need to do. And I'd help without thinking or having a boundary. Those types of friends would cut me off or ignore me whenever I needed help or I actually had a real world problem. Like even a friend that said, listen, I can't help you. You might need therapy. Never had that. Had to figure that out on my own. Actually, I was at a toxic corporate job in insurance, and my manager told me, I got mad love for you, but you are very anxious and you need a break. You should consider some short-term disability. And I did, and it was very life-changing for me because it led me even deeper toward this path of clarity that we're discussing. And a lot of coming into where I am now is accepting that at my big age, my father does not know everything, and he's programmed. And whatever his computer program is, it's not compatible with my programming. He's an Android, I'm an iPhone, it's just that simple. So when I have iPhone issues, I have to take accountability for the fact that it wasn't until literally just now I realized I'm having iPhone issues and going to an Android about it, An Android doesn't really know much about an iPhone. It hurts because it means that no matter what I say or do, certain parts of me will never be fully accepted or understood. It hurts because sometimes I feel like a real black sheep. And it also hurts because, you would think that your family really means it when they tell you that you're intelligent, that you're smart, that you're attractive, that you're beautiful, that you're whatever it is that, sounds good. But when a crisis really hits and they start coming at you with certain stuff, you kind of see the other side of what they're saying. And it's not as sweet as they make it. And it kind of levels you out because you start to realize in a ripple effect, wait, you're looking at me this way, and that's how this person in my relationship looked at me. That's how this former friend looked at me. That's how those clients looked at me. Wow, wow, I'm confiding in you and you really don't fucking mean it for me. You really don't fucking get it. You don't care for it. You don't support it. You just think that things should be the way you want, and you're not truly taking in what I'm going through because you had your mind made up a long time ago and you sat on it. Now, where do I fit in taking control of this? Self-concept is the cheap, quick answer. And by self-concept, I mean by taking control of the way I'm thinking, my perception, and what I'm allowing. Once I heard what I heard, I, respectfully let my father know there's no need to ever talk about this again, because now that I see how you feel, I just need you to know that it's not all it was cracked up to be. We have a fundamental difference in what marriage is supposed to be. And while I don't disagree about stability and sticking through things thick and thin, I'm going to just be real and say my parents got married way too fucking young to have ever decided on each other. But because this happened and this was the consequence of their actions, they got married and they made this work. They were in their teens. I am well past my teens. So when I say something and you're coming at me with 50 years of experience from a decision you made from the consequences you put yourself in as a teenager, I have to be very mindful of the fact that I didn't put myself in that circumstance. You can't compare me to that circumstance, and it's a different economy now. If this resonates and you're actually still here after 28 minutes of me going in, I just want you to know we're going to have our good days, but we're also going to have some really fucked up days of emotional purging and realization when we stop trying to pretend that water is not wet. Because water is fucking wet. And when I say water is wet, I mean once you realize that your family is codependent, water is wet. They're codependent and you've got to deal with that. When you realize that your family has a problem with spiritual bypassing, water's fucking wet. You need to deal with that. When you realize that you would attract and sustain and maintain relationships with people that treated you as if you didn't deserve all you desired and you felt like you were lacking and like you had to give more to get more, but the more you gave, the less you received because there's this scarcity and this fear and this feeling of lack within you, which people say, oh, you are worthy, you're enough, you're good. No, like scarcity and lack are an umbrella for all of these things. It's a general situation, especially when your personal fulfillment is lacking, your financial fulfillment is lacking, and your heart is lacking. That's lack. When you come to these deeper realizations that the people around you, as intelligent and loving and dynamic as they are, don't fucking get, it sucks because that's when you truly are the outlier. That's when you truly are the black sheep. I've never realized how badly my family gaslit me with certain things that I go through until yesterday. And I spent more time crying over the loss of innocence and the trust that I had in my relationship with my family and their true revelation and support for my goals. And that's what I mean by it's been chaotic, you know, like I'm growing, I'm learning, I'm picking things up. I'm learning to unlearn things that honestly blocked me and got in my way. But I'm also truly realizing that, you know, sometimes the silence comes from having to be quiet because people don't get it, won't get it, don't want to get it, don't care to get it, will never get it. Because in their mind, they already know what should have been done. And, you know, as a spiritual person and as a magician, and if you've been drawn to this channel, your energy and your being flows naturally through everything that you do. So you can't help but to be who you are, and you can't help but to grimace at, I hope grimace is a word. You can't help but to just kind of look at people sideways and then just kind of accept. You know, when your parents are in their 60s, they don't know what it's like to have multiple degrees and debt and not be good enough to get a job that pays your bills and helps you buy a house and pays off your loans. When they sit up there and tell you what they would do when they've had one fucking job at one fucking company their whole life, they don't know what it's like for companies to reshuffle the deck and cut employees to save money, and what happens when you and 90% of the people you work with get fired one day for no reason after weeks of gaslighting and playing in your face. That happened to me with a certain insurance company that shall not be named. You won't understand what it's like when you're in a situation where corporate games are being played and they're deliberately targeting you, no matter how good you are. Because again, you got to have that stability. And the rougher and more competitive it gets out here these days, the more games people play. And as a magician, there are times where we choose to sit in the mundane and we don't employ magic for everything so that we can see things for what they are. And we also dive into our mind to see where is our mind resonant with the idea that this is okay for us. And we take action accordingly. And once we take action accordingly and we need a boost, we'll jump back into throwing out a spell. If we need a real escape, we'll really throw some spells and some road openers at the situation. But we also, you know, mostly come from a perspective of let's be mindful, let's not be excessive, let's kind of just come at this with a chill mentality. Let's try to do all the work we can before we go completely batshit. Well, I realize that I've done as much work as I can, and you know, it's time to go batshit. So if you know, you know. If you're not getting ahead despite the work that you're doing, it's time to do something else. If you've been miserable and upset because people don't get your struggle, it's time to stop talking to them. It's just time to get quiet. Nobody can take from me what I want, but if I'm telling people that I now realize do not have my best interests at heart for what I want, they're going to block me. So it's too late to tell my parents I want to get remarried. I've been saying it for years, but now that I realize that there's an internal block in my household because my parents are looking at me sideways for this, because they're stuck in the past, That's the evil eye I need to get rid of. That's the evil eye I need to protect myself against. That's the energy that I need to remove. And I need to accept the power that comes from the loss of innocence, from realizing that even if I'm daddy's little girl or mommy's little girl, they really don't fucking know what they're talking about when it comes to me. And they don't have the capacity or the depth to truly sit down and understand some of the decisions I made, because religiously they have been convicted in the belief that even if it kills you, you must stay married. And they would look at marriage as a divorce more as a sin than the fact that I've been in a house where one of my parents cheated, one of my parents had substance abuse, one of my parents was an emotionally dependent person. My parents were and are and have been codependent. I've seen a lot of shit. And if I choose not to, and when it comes to toxic businesses, I've seen a lot of shit too. I've had my money stolen. I've had my ideas stolen. I've had my intellectual property taken from me and been fired a day after it was taken from me so that I couldn't keep it for myself. I've had a lot of things happen. And the buck stops with me trying to get other people to validate what the fuck I'm seeing and going through. If you don't see it, you don't see it. And I'm finally at a place where I'm learning that, you've got to love people for who they are while giving space to just have space for yourself and overcome their naysaying and their obstacles. I'm getting married. Don't know when, don't know to who, but because I decided it and I got very clear, it's going to happen. But I had to do the inner work and the black walnut baths, because I did 2 of them, and experience the triggers of being in a place that I don't want to be, despite how hard I've worked, to realize the final piece of this is me literally picking up my last infinity stone and putting it together and exploding and destroying the universe that's currently in front of me. This is a lot longer than I anticipated, but let me get this part out. And thank you for listening. Now that I'm aware of how my family's looking at me, it is my responsibility to destroy the whole reality that we're all in that makes it okay for their thoughts and their energy to penetrate and silently sabotage my desires. A lot of people say, "Oh, silence and secrecy is part of magic." Possibly. Part of manifestation, getting things done. Quite a bit, possibly. But I had to learn this lesson to really see how badly it was affecting me, because the person that was holding back and sending me such a nasty energy didn't mean to, never intended for me to see it, and tried to position it in a comfortable way. The change here is clearing my emotions about the situation, clearing my feelings and my thoughts. From that point, I have to, and you, if this applies and you're like, what do I do if I'm in this situation? The next aspect of it is to consciously remember that if you got to this point, you actually do have the power to start in this mess and transform it into something else. This is the part that it hurts, and then you get active. It's time to really reinforce my thoughts about what it is I want out of life. It's time to really reinforce my boundaries without speaking to people about them. It's time to really show people, I don't give a fuck about your beliefs anymore, because your beliefs did not help me in life. And I'm not going through that right now. But if you have been raised to be more Christian than fucking sane, to the point where even if it technically isn't something you should be going through, but you're going to go through it anyway because the Bible or this spiritual book or that holy book says this or that, that's your problem. That's your choice. That's your lot in life. I'd rather be happy or be dead. I think that there's ways that you can live a happy life and live a biblical life instead of a life where you're constantly telling people there will be trials and tribulations, but the Lord will give you peace beyond understanding, because sometimes it's not fucking true. Sometimes the Lord will leave you there to fucking struggle and be in pain so that you can get yourself the fuck up and move on. And that's the relationship that I have with the Most High God. I don't have this relationship of I'm just going to sit here and struggle and I'm going to be oppressed and unhappy and not live what I want. No. Are you serious? So I'm supposed to take a sexless marriage and not feeling loved and desired and not feeling like I'm going to have a family and we're going to have stability because I made a decision with somebody that I cared about who, later on admitted they could not do what they said they was going to do and that they were pretending? No. This period is about reclamation, reformation, pulling myself together, getting myself in order, as I have been, and making the hard decisions to cut people and things out of my life. I've already cut people and things out of my life as of the last week or so, and I have no fucks to give because a lot of those people cut me out first, and holding on to them was just dead weight. And I need to make space. But the larger work now is getting clear on your core desires and affirming and shifting those core desires so that I can get closer to the reality I want. Because I will tell you, I'm seeing some miraculous stuff happen. At the same time, a lot of tears are being shed as I accept what is for what is. And I also realize that there's some more spiritual work to do with a few different spirits, mainly Luciferian ones, if we're being honest. And that's what I'm looking forward to. I took quite a bit of time off of doing direct Luciferian work for a while and working with different entities and demons and guides because I wanted to really purify my situation and get clear on what's what. So I did a jinx remover, I did a work breaker, and I did a candle that I addressed to the Most High. And then I did some black walnut spiritual baths, and I just rested. And then all of this came out that I'm sharing with you and more. But I did all of that, manifested a new job. I'm letting go of the first job. And I'm still a little frustrated because, again, I have degrees. I should not be dealing with such a low paying job. However, I'm humble enough to know that I clearly am not doing something right or need a little more work to align to what I want, as well as to be humble enough to take what I can get for right now and monkey branch to the next level. The new job seems chill, despite the shocking surprise that I went through. It seems chill, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it takes me because it was a blessing that landed out of nowhere. And I thank the Most High and any and all entities that were involved in that as well. And I'm going to use that to leverage and share my heart from time to time with this channel. Because I feel like I'm in a space where if I don't document these things now, when I meet the right people to work with, they're not going to understand how much I might resonate with what they're going through or have been through. Spiritual workers, magicians, occultists, we have to live regular lives like everybody else because we still have to do things like pay the bills, eat food, and, be human. But when you're at the level that we're at, and even if you don't feel like you're at this level, or you might supersede it, wherever you feel like you are, I'm still going to include you here because you're actually here listening. And this is 45 minutes of me going in with a bunch of rambling things that go in and out of my overall theme of chaos and accepting things for what they are and understanding that water is wet and that people are people and that, guess what? I'm the black sheep and I'm fucking okay with it. But now that I'm here, it's time for me to do a couple of things. One, destroy any lingering victim mindset, because victim mindset and scarcity go hand in hand. And you can't be in pain or feel like somebody got at you without feeling some sense of being victimized, It's time to become emotionally indestructible and bulletproof. Especially with the people that I really held opinions of the most and really held opinions of high regard in the most, and that would be my family, especially my father. And it doesn't mean that I don't respect him. It just means I took him off the pedestal, which is something that a lot of people talk about in manifesting their relationships and whatever, is taking somebody off the pedestal. If I've had my father on a pedestal my entire life, it feels natural because that's my dad. Even when he's not perfect, that's my hero. But I'm at an age where I don't need my father to be my hero because he's done that already. He did the best that he could do. But he's not absolved from me respectfully speaking back or respectfully putting up boundaries where needed if he doesn't agree with what I'm doing and the energy he has towards it blocks or hinders me in any way. Same with my mother. Same with my sister. I tend to have this thing where if I really care about you and I love you and you're close to me, I want, without trying sometimes or realizing it, I want to experience your approval in what I do. I want you to be 100% in because that's how I feel like I am. And I realize people are who the fuck they are. Like, it is what it is. And I think the challenge now is dealing with my family, because now that I understand that it is what it is and y'all are who y'all are, I'm going to be who I am. And I don't need your approval. I don't need your Bible. And I don't need your God to tell me what I can and can't do. This is my life. It's my life. And if, people wanted me to stay married the first time around, I feel like they should have put in more work and more help with that. I had to figure a lot out on my own. The same with my business. So, you definitely have to be aware of the fact that you could be working very hard at something, but your family dynamics are messing up the way you move through life and keeping you from getting your bag. You could be doing all the right things and not treating yourself appropriately without knowing it. And nobody in your family is able to tell you because they either don't see it or they benefit from it. Or they don't have that problem, so they clearly don't see it. I'm done with the trauma bonding that happens in my family. I'm done with saying I'm going through this, that, and the third and having to hear about what happens to you if I'm talking about this right here now, because this is what's specifically happening. And I'm tired of explaining, everybody's having a hard time getting a paying job. Everybody's having a hard time sustaining a paying job. And when I say paying job, I don't mean low-hanging fruit like Target or Walmart or the grocery store. I'm talking about a job where you have livable wages and you can afford to live by yourself. It's a struggle out here. And while this country is sending billions of dollars of aid to other countries, we need billions of dollars of aid right here. And we're not getting it for the regular people like you and I. You and I, we have the option to dig deeper and do some magnetizing and shifting and changing our inner state so that we don't have to absorb as much of the lack that's going around out here. But it doesn't take away from the fact that water is wet, jobs are not available. And, you know, as far as I'm concerned, the government's fucking lying to us, but ain't shit finna happen. They know they're lying and we can't do anything about it. You know, the White House secretary under whoever, all they do is lie and gaslight. And once you realize that if your government will lie and gaslight, so will the people around you and next to you, including people who love you, you just got to really get in your cube, get in your bubble, blow everything up, and recreate something new for yourself. You got to let your beliefs magnetize new things. You've got to let your change in perception magnetize new things. You've got to let your emotions out so that you can purge and heal, because you're sensitive and there's nothing wrong with that. That sensitivity actually gets you 10 steps ahead of people, because you will be able to pick up on things people think you have no idea about and make moves based on them. You will be able to orchestrate your specific emotional needs as a sorceress, as a sorcerer, as a magician, as an occultist, as a practitioner, when you allow that sensitivity to come in. I can't help it. If I'm gonna cry, I'm gonna cry. If I'm gonna be emotional, I'm gonna be emotional. But this is after over so many years of keeping my emotions to myself and being told to just stuff it down and just being gaslit to be made sensitive. I'm a sensitive feeling person, but I'm not a sensitive crybaby. But the minute I cry around my family, it's like, oh, what are you crying for? You know what I'm saying? It's like, you're just a lot to handle. And it's like, you know what? Y'all are emotionally unavailable substance addicts who have never gotten over your codependency issues, dysfunctional relationship with the Bible, and this, that, and the third. But I don't say these things. I say them, I mention them, but the holier than now, or the you don't have a right to be upset, I don't care, you know? Because those raw materials of how I feel, you don't have to like them. But I can take all of that energy and turn it into something even more beautiful. Instead of having 10, 15 years in a marriage that honestly tried to kill me because my hormones were messed up, my health was messed up. I had health issues that I never had before and never had again after being in that relationship. That was my choice, you know? That was my choice to step away. There's nothing that can make me stick with something that's literally killing me. I use that energy to get my degrees. I use that energy to try to make something of myself. So tying all of this together, the reason I keep going in and out of that marriage and my business is I launched my business from a place of trying to heal from the pain of a failed marriage. And again, I'm grateful for that marriage. He's a great guy, just not great for me. He'll be great for somebody if he chooses to settle down, and he's a great person. But I also had to let that person go because I knew I could not love them the way they needed to be loved, and my heart and emotions were just not doing what they needed to do anymore. And just because I wasn't happy or able to sustain what happened didn't mean that he deserved to be trapped in a situation where he had an unhappy wife who didn't accept him for who he was. Because that level of usage and the way it affected him, I didn't know how to get around it. And he made it clear, I don't have this problem with other women. It's really only with you. Which kind of helped me personalize it more. And I've grown a lot since then. So I see what I could have done differently back then. But I'm not going back to that. I'm not attached to that. And it really behooves and upsets me that people don't see the growth and the development that came from me trying to dive deep and make something of myself after that wasn't going anywhere. So to feel kind of like I've been cursed ever since I'm divorced because my family has so-called had a whole side eye about me about it, fucking hurts. To realize that, my father's had evil eye on my desire to get remarried and the things that I've wanted to do, it fucking hurts. But it's also a very sharp lesson that, you're the people who don't really believe in what you do, they're going to be all over the place and they'll be right in your face being a familiar spirit or a monitoring spirit without knowing it. Do I think my father's a monitoring spirit? No. Do I think he's a familiar spirit? No. But do I think that his energy toward my desires has really blocked my progress these past few years? Fuck yes. Yeah. I can see it now. After what I saw and heard and discovered, I can see it. And because I love my father, I'm going to have to figure out how to maneuver my relationship with him. But I know that I'm going to just shut the fuck up when it comes to a lot of my goals now, because a lot of the goals that are still lingering, my own house, the marriage, the children, to him, that's bullshit at this point, because I should have did that when I was married to the first person, even if it was killing me. The lack of regard for my medical health, my mental health, my emotional health, my spiritual health, my physical health, over the dictation of a religious text, speechless. I really wish that people knew the truth about the Bible, even myself, because so much is conflicting and my soul tells me it's powerful, but it's missing a lot, and a lot is just really just doesn't add up. And I say that based upon the stories of men and women who both have horrible stories of marriage and how it destroyed them, which speaks to the family dynamics we're raised in and the way we choose partners and the way the Western world has done a lot of things. And I really wish that people who made it 20, 30, 40, 60 years, even 10, would shut the fuck up and realize everybody's not as blessed as you, and everybody's not meant to have that covenant the first time around with that person that they wanted. And there's a lot of reasons for that, including the fact that people change and that people keep their masks on. Wow, it's almost an hour. I really had a lot to say. Thank you for being here, though, if you're still here. And what I want you to take from this is that if you're struggling to get ahead in your business, if you're struggling to get ahead in your career, if your family treats you like you're just talking nonsense when you bring up things that are really happening and they gaslight you or downplay or bypass what you're saying, it's just a sign that they don't get it and that you're just on a whole different level that needs to be acknowledged and celebrated and loved for what it is. Your family, they love you, but they love you the best way they know how. And I would suggest that you look up things about healthy and traumatic family dynamics so that you can see for yourself, because I'm not a medical expert or psychologist when it comes to these things. I'm just working on myself, because you want to be aware of the advantages and disadvantages that have come from being raised the way you were, so you can see how they permeate and penetrate into your habits in the future. My desire to please an alcoholic parent meant being perfect and not getting into trouble. My desire to please a codependent parent meant listening to them go on and on about the alcoholic parent. My people pleasing and bending over backwards comes from having to deal with fucked up situations where, in my head, maybe if I act perfect, there won't be any problems. And I brought that out into the world, and that energy was picked up upon by predators and people who could smell an easy opportunity. And they did what they could, and they got as far as they could go with quite a few different things, including my career. And at this point, because You know, your family is never going to see things the way you see it, especially if they have indoctrination deep in their roots and their bloodline. It's not love them from a distance, but it's like love them with boundaries. Love them while holding your head up high. Love them while accepting that y'all are not the same people. Love them while understanding that the Most High, the universe, chose you. Your higher self is coming to you and choosing you because you're supposed to set an example for how different things can be. But it starts with healing anything unresolved within yourself that is perpetuating lack and scarcity and enhancing any essential sense of victimhood, and allowing your emotions to be released even if they're intense and dark. Because once you get these emotions out and you get these other things in place, you realize that, again, people are doing the best they can, but they have their own lack of ability to perceive and see certain things as well. And this could make or break you if you allow yourself to remain connected and attached to any validity from them when you start doing different things. If I'm going to be the first person in my family to remarry and be actually happy with a healthy partner, so motherfucking be it, because I didn't see it in my family, and I'm not going to fucking hold my mouth anymore now that I know that different people can make sermons about me and unapologetically judge me. I'll judge back. It's fine.